I'm going to start the event. All right, amazing. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Normally, people kind of join. I've been learning this over the last couple of months that people generally join within the first 10 minutes, don't they, rather than be here right at the start.
I would even say sometimes longer. People tend to trickle in and then they all come in sort of a little bit late. It's sort of like church.
Yeah. Well, where are you? I'm curious, just maybe to kill a minute or two as well, whilst people join. I'm curious, where are you guys from? What's the background to fear versus greed? You're going to grill us for probably 60 minutes. It'd be great just to maybe get some context from you guys.
Yeah, so I'm on the East Coast of America, and Fear versus Greed started because I got into the DeFi space and I wanted to know everything about it. I mean, I fell in love with it, and I started a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet was mm, maybe not exhaustive, but pretty complete. And I shared it with a real life friend, and then I shared it with some other people. And before I knew it, I had, oh, I don't know, maybe 150 projects, and hundreds of people were sharing it. I mean, it was crazy. And I said, man, this is like all my advantage is going away, right? I mean, the whole point of alpha is that not everybody knows it. And I said, I'm going to either have to stop publishing it or I'm going to have to put up a paywall. And I guess the rest is history. I started Fear versus Greed. It's a paid membership service. It's basically a research service. We're currently tracking, um, I think, 695 DeFi projects. And yeah, I mean,
Wow.
it's a major
When
accomplishment.
you say tracking, what does that mean? When you say tracking, in what sort of way?
So what I promise to my members is that once I start tracking a project, they will know the relevant dates. I call it actionable information. So if you know the date that the pre-sale is going to be, then you can go and say, am I able to get whitelist for this? If it's a public pre-sale, then you just have to know, okay, it's a certain day and a certain time. I need to do my research before that day and time, right? That way I know if I want to invest. But simply knowing that date and time for hundreds of projects, it's a full-time job. I mean, I have to check every single day. I add new projects every single day, and new projects come out every single day. It's really amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So how many members do you have in Fear versus Greed today?
The general membership is 1,400 and something, and then in terms of paid members, we're at 50 something.
Wow, very good,
Yeah,
very good. And in terms of spread geographically, all around the world.
absolutely. We have two researchers that help me. One lives in the most expensive city on earth. Does anybody know what that is?
Singapore.
That's right.
Yeah, I just
Hong Kong.
Oh, I
Hong
was
Kong.
looking for Singapore, but I don't know if that's actually true. That's what he told me, and I believe him. I'm sure it's very expensive. And then Shoguns, that was Chewy I mentioned. Shoguns lives in Africa. Um, I'm in America, and we have plenty of Europeans who are members. And then I don't think that we have too many um, East Asians in the group, but I think in the general membership we have a lot.
Very good.
I hope I'm not leaving out any continents there. We've got plenty of South Americans too. In fact, is Omar here yet? I think Omar has some good questions for you guys, but he is very, very busy and he said he might not make this, so I don't see him yet. Hopefully he'll come in.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you for having us. I think I've been looking forward to this because we'll obviously get into the protocol, our ambitions, and the way we've designed our protocol. Actually, fear versus greed sits very nicely with it because we've designed it in a way where you should be greedy at times when normally people are fearful, and you should be fearful at times when normally people are greedy. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting. You've got that fear versus greed because that's the way we've designed our protocol actually, to encourage people to take profits at the right time, and then encourage them to be very aggressive when others when when a chart typically would look like that. You would normally, everybody's running for the exits, but in our protocol you should really be doing the opposite because it means that very limited supply is available at a very cheap price. So yeah, it really resonated with me.
Well, thank you for that. And by the way, congratulations, guys. Congratulations. All your hard work paid off. You guys had a good launch. Things look like they're going great. I love your branding. When did you guys come up with Make DeFi Better? Because I don't remember that when you guys first started.
Yeah, no, that came became a thing probably a couple of weeks, I'd say maybe after our sort of initial inception, shall we say. Obviously, the name Million Dollar Baby, it's a bit divisive, right? Some people love it, it's quite catchy. A lot of people also think it sounds a bit meme coiny. And yeah, so I wanted something that was within the MDB brand, within the MDB sort of lettering, and something that really reflected what we were trying to do. And that is to make DeFi better, right? We're trying to make it fairer, we're trying to make it less focused on, Ponzinomics and that sort of thing. So yeah, that just came in probably about 2 weeks after our initial sort of Discord opening and everything like that. That was then born, so to speak.
Absolutely brilliant. And you guys are making DeFi better because of some of your unique mechanisms. Now, you guys have done a lot of AMAs. Um, did you want to go ahead and give us a rundown for people who might be not familiar with the tokenomics? I don't know if you've listened to any of my AMAs before, but I don't really focus on tokenomics. It's more of a get to know you
Mhm.
guys and hear about your plans for the future and that. But tokenomics have their place. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, maybe what I'll do is okay, because you mentioned normally I'd give a bit of an introduction about the team, but it sounds like we'll go into that in a second. But yeah, to kind of give the background in MDB, just to add to what Mina just said, actually, um, Million Dollar Baby actually came from quite a compassionate place. Whilst it sounds a bit pump and dumpy, we thought it was catchy. I thought it was catchy. I take responsibility, but it actually came from this thought process that we had where we looked at all of the things that we see as wrong with crypto, and we see a huge opportunity to unlock a lot of capital using financial mechanisms within this space for the greater good of a large number of people rather than wealth. Even in our traditional finance systems, wealth is concentrated in a really small number of people, as we all know. So and part of Million Dollar Baby was that we had this view that we wanted to have a system that would rather than put $20 million in one person's hand, it would put $1 million in 20 people's hands and change 20 million sort of lives and their families' lives forever at the expense of no one. And obviously Ponzonomics means that you need new liquidity, and small people gain large amounts and large numbers of people lose a lot as well. And that's really where Million Dollar Baby come from. But it didn't, the name didn't, whilst it came from a compassionate place, the name didn't really encapsulate that. So Mina, is the brainchild behind Make DeFi Better, which is, our way of kind of then having almost this slogan alongside the name, which hopefully brings it home a little bit. In terms of our tokenomics and the way it works, I suppose there's many projects out there that exist where they have, I think this treasuries is the most common terminology, where basically you're investing, you're using that as a financial liquidity, a financial utility, apologies, and then you invest that into your ecosystem, right? And that delivers value for holders ultimately. In our system, I suppose what we did from the very start is we sort of combined tokenomics with this community focus, with this buy and burn mechanism, and then also, most importantly, this capital synergy process. So what we've designed is this system where we, every cent that we raised has gone into the protocol. All startup costs we covered ourselves as a team, and yeah, that's a big principle of ours, that we could see that projects often start, and $500,000 from a 2 million raise is not there when the project starts in the fund, and then you basically start off in the red, right? And that's where you need Pondonomics to make up the difference. So we put every single cent in the protocol, and we split the funds 5 parts trust fund, 1 part liquidity, and what that ultimately means is that using sort of the Phoenix model and the buyback and burns, it ultimately gives you 2 sources of revenue, which have this almost this this combustive effect, where they both work together and then accelerate a mathematical process. So without a single buy or sell, the irony of our system, without a single buy or sell, our system, it would grow. Now, if there was, curiously in our system, mathematically, if there was only ever sells, then it would grow more. And that's because of the way the system generates its own sort of revenue from interests and investments, and when it buys, it also burns supply, so you get this double impact. Now, when people buy into the system, they pay a tax. They pay about 10% tax, which is split 80% trust fund, 20% marketing operations, and then they pay 15% when they sell. But really, I suppose there's a couple of things that are happening there. Those funds obviously are invested into the protocol and into running it, and they're invested, and we only our goal is that we only reinvest, sorry, I'm not being strictly correct there, that we largely just reinvest interest and rewards, and we have the capacity to invest up to 5% within a calendar month. So we actually launched right at the end of April. There was no mega buys in April, so we call it a mega buy. So and that's a tactical play by the team, and that's ultimately how those systems will work. It's tax combined with this capital synergy model, and then buys and sells from the community, and ultimately using sort of the AMM curve. What it means is that we have a system, certainly a few days ago, is ridiculously undervalued. Liquidity was almost 600% backed at one point. And now it's dropped down a bit because we've had quite a bit of growth over the last few days. We've checked what the market's done. We've done the complete opposite over the last 3 days. So we're now only for about 460% liquidity backed by the trust fund. But what it means is that you have this sort of AMM curve where the upside potential is huge and the downside potential is very small. And the way that system works is that it protects against whales. So if we had a fantastic buy from somebody who's really supportive, and they put $80,000 into the protocol yesterday in one single buy. Now, if that individual just dumped all of that, and they're probably up somewhere in the region of about 30% on that already. If they just dumped all of that right now, they would have a huge price impact on that really aggressive sell because of the size of the liquidity and the way the AMM works. And then that would create a buying opportunity for both the community to buy what is limited supply, which is always depreciating, but then also the Phoenix, which is funded by the trust fund, can then buy up supply and burn it. And that's in a nutshell kind of how our system works. So we wanted to design something that I always say there's 3 things that really kill a project. Often it's lack of volume, or it's whales. There's just too much power sits in too fewer people's hands, and it's also then it's the Pondonomics ultimately, and we've designed a system that combats, or is designed to combat, all of those major sort of root causes of systems that don't work. So in a nutshell, appreciating fund and depreciating supply, and then the math just goes to work.
So the treasury sits at about a 4 to
The
1
trust fund.
ratio with the liquidity. Is that what I've gathered?
Well, it started at 5 to 1, and then because of taxes, and then we had this bearish period after launch where we're just washing through, because we've done a lot of pre-raise and we've done the analysis, and most people who aren't interested in being here long term. They've had their opportunity to leave now. Now they can see it's not going to be 100x in a week, but it is growing very healthily in a very sustainable way. And we have this huge insurance policy. So we were touching close to 600% backed at one point when it was really low. And actually then you saw the Phoenix chewing up supply. So we've already burned a lot. I think we've burned, just to be sure, well over $100,000 worth of tokens already, actually. And our goal is to burn, for as long as possible, is to try and burn 1% a week. So now the price has improved a hell of a lot. We've seen a lot of growth in the last few days. Our liquidity still today is back to 460%.
Awesome. This ratio, was this achieved through the pre-sales? Because I see that the tax is, I think, 10%. I just had it in front of me, but the buy and sell
10
tax,
in, 15 out.
10 and 15, right? They both go towards the treasury, but to achieve that initial ratio, that came from the pre-sale, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Amazing. Wow, what a success.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you. And there was a few things that we did tactically as well. So we weren't born yesterday, so we knew if we had a pre-sale like that, then you're going to have a lot of dumpers in there. And when we look at the data, we did some analysis in the last few days. The amount of people that just dump their whole bag instantly is crazy. Um, and we planned for that, and we were very lucky to have very high volume straight off the bat. So ultimately, because our system's depreciating, basically we've seen supply move from the hands of the impatient and people that are not really. It's not what I would call investing. It's more sort of, they're trying to just make a quick return, into the hands of people that really get it. And now they understand the protocol. So, there's very clever people within the community who are taking profit sensibly, and when it dips hard, they buy the dip. And that's ultimately the way our system is designed.
great explanation. I I want to pivot back to where we started because I feel bad. I'd really like it if we could introduce Mina and Apex Alpha and Lola, because I feel like I'm the only one who got an introduction. Do you want to go ahead and introduce the other members of your team that are here?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll let them sort of introduce themselves because I'm guilty of doing a lot of the
I,
talking
I
as
don't think
well.
we've heard Apex's voice. Apex, is your microphone working?
It is. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm Apex Alpha. I've got a bit of a business background, technical business background. I've been in the project pretty early on, before launch, and just as you normally do as a young budding community member, just show good promise, and right now my kind of role is kind of managing the Millionaire Club, and we can maybe talk about that a bit later down the line about what that is and stuff like that. But yeah, I've been in DeFi perhaps maybe 18 months, so I've got a good knowledge at least of the DeFi space, and obviously seeing the success of the project at this stage has been an amazing journey. So yeah, I mean, I am the custodian of the Millionaire Club, and feel free to kind of ask any questions on what that is as we kind of go on.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was just reading about that. An exclusive club with airdrops, NFTs, and many other benefits. Yeah, we'll get into
Yeah.
that. Mina, can you go ahead and tell us who you are?
Yeah, hello everyone. So I'm Mina, obviously. I'm one of the three co-founders of the project. So I've been here from sort of even before day one, helping, with the concepts and everything. I head up all of our marketing, so all of the branding, setting up things like today with AMAs, anything marketing wise really. So your ads, your influencer relationships, that sort of thing. And that's what I cover. So I've got about in marketing probably 5 or 6 years experience, not within DeFi, that's sort of in within real world, and DeFi wise this is the first DeFi marketing job that I've done, but I've been investing for a while, and yeah, done a lot of learning in the space actually before I'd even consider working in it to make sure I understood it and everything like that. So yeah, first DeFi job, but certainly not my first marketing role.
Awesome. Well, the work you've done with MDB has been awesome. I mean, make DeFi better is a stroke of brilliance, in my opinion.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been a journey. I think, yeah, obviously they make DeFi better came a couple of weeks after, and I think, well, everyone learns as they go, right? And as the project evolves, so does the branding need to. So, yeah, but I think, people seem to like the black and gold. They like the slick look of it. So I think it's worked out quite well. People seem to be buying into us and believing in the project. And obviously the numbers speak for themselves as well, as the Godfather sort of explained our tokenomics. So I think the two combined, yeah, doing well for us at the minute.
Yeah, I think the gold infinity symbol sort of captures the capital synergy idea. Isn't that what you guys are going for?
Yeah, exactly. So you've got this sort of infinite growth, right, with the interest being generated, as long as you don't eat into the trust fund, which we don't. That isn't, the method behind it. It will just keep creating this interest, and you can just keep then using it to buy back and burn the token until, in theory, we're in fractional tokens then, right? If you burn enough of them. So yeah, I really wanted that to be in the logo, and with the M as well, obviously with the name being $1 Million Baby, with it being MDB, I really wanted to show that as well. So yeah, but you're right, the Infinity logo definitely is meant to sort of encapsulate that, and the fact that it is ongoing, and this cycle essentially just goes on and on and on.
Awesome. Lola is needs no introduction for anybody who's been to my last few AMAs. She actually conducted the entire AMA with Wand when I was recovering from a surgery that I had recently. She's ambitious, she has a great voice, and she's a business owner. She owns the Cash Club. Lola, are you there? Can you say hi to everybody?
Hi.
I think Lola has some questions when we get to the sort of the Ask Me Anything portion. Where did you want to go from here, Godfather?
Good question. I'm not used to steering the ship in this situation. I think would you like us to give a bit of an introduction to the team as well? I suppose both Mina and Apex have given an introduction. I haven't actually given an introduction to myself and kind of the journey that's led us to where we are today.
Okay, would you say that you are the progenitor or are you the visionary, or is that too much?
It's my baby. Excuse the pun. I think maybe slightly a life decision at the same time as wanting to do something different and try and do something good in a space that I've been watching for a long time and been involved in a long time. Learned a lot on that journey and can see it's one of those spaces where 99% of projects fail in a relatively short time frame. I mean, very few see it past 12 months, and I think it's when you understand sort of the mechanics of the industry and how AMMs work and how pondonomics work, it's absolutely no surprise in the end, actually, and it's an extremely aggressive, competitive space, yeah.
Is your COO what his name is Boom? Tell me what is
Chain, yeah,
what say it again?
Boom Chain.
Boom Chain. Is he making ultimately the decisions for the investments for the treasury?
No, we've got other people that work with us as well. So we have like three co-founders, and we've also got a chairman that we work with who asks us very difficult questions. And then we have a couple of advisors as well in the background. And in addition to that, we also have a larger technical team as well. And then we've got sort of the community team that sits around it as well. So there's kind of more people in the background. So what I suppose from my background, just so people understand, I've got many years business experience, investment experience, both in a corporate environment. So I've worked in multi-billion-dollar turnover businesses. Worked for at least 2 Fortune 500 businesses in leadership roles, sort of building and leading teams and business units, and then worked in the startup environment, taking very small organizations, scaling technology businesses up until sort of investment rounds. So that's my background. So I think the reason that's important is because we're a mature team. I don't think there's many teams within the space that probably are all sort of minimum 30 years old, all got lots of life experience, families and things like that. And at the same time, we also understand, why certain things are in place, so why you have certain sign-off processes, certain corporate procedures, and ultimately, the way our internal playbooks work is so that there are consideration periods, there are checks and measures in place to ensure that we have a certain balance. You can see within our white paper, for instance, that we have a 70-20-10 split in terms of, and we classify those investments as well. And then we have to stick within a certain set of guidelines around investments. And then, all decisions are signed off by the internal committee.
I see. So there are many ways for you guys to get ideas and also many ways for you to veto ideas.
Yeah, exactly. It's partial community as well, actually. So, we actually have a channel within our server, and some people are given some fantastic investment ideas or just little tweaks. One thing that I always find interesting, and I'm sure you see it very much because you look across a lot of the space. I always think of like DeFi as like almost like little solar systems. And every solar system you go into, people think that that's the universe, and then you go to a different solar system, and so I think for that reason, I think you've got to have eyes open and take input from the outside as well as having your own internal processes. So we do also have community input, and they chuck us lots of like really good stuff actually, which then we put onto a roster, and then we assess those depending on where fund is invested. So at the moment, for instance, we've got especially when you've got very sort of shifting markets, then you've got to think really hard about where your investment sits. So we took the decision, to give you an example, a week ago, that we'd need to go with we'd need to hedge basically. Now you never know what's going to happen, but ultimately what that meant was that we put about $500,000 into purely stable backed assets. So whilst our trust fund hasn't performed as you would hope in a normal market, actually we've had a huge amount of loss avoidance over the last 4 or 5 days because of those decisions.
Yeah, great job. I hope that you guys weren't affected by the UST. I don't know whether to call it drama or trauma.
Deep end.
Yeah, the deep
Yeah,
end.
no, we're not affected by that, and we're also launching our own algorithmic stable, appreciating stable coin. Actually, we hope to have the beta out this weekend. Sort of first dibs will be VIPs in the Millionaires Club. That's just basically, it's just like a flex roll where you've got to purchase is around, I think it's 8 BNB, around $3,000, and you get that roll. That roll's filling up very quickly. Then we have Millionaires Club, and when we talk about the Millionaires Club, it's not just about, it's very much about community. We've got a mental health consultant who's starting her first session this month. Next week, I think she's doing her first session, and then she's working with the community over the next 6 months, and she'll do weekly tips in our mental health channel. We've got investment advice, security advice. We've just spoken to an auditor today who's going to come and talk to us about how you look at certain protocols and try and understand maybe where there's flaws in them. Because the way we've designed our system, we're not afraid of liquidity flight, because we designed it in a way that if people want to put their money in, then it helps the protocol. If they want to leave, then it also helps the protocol. So we're developing sort of all of these kind of tools that are focused around the community and helping them to have a good place to hide out in a crazy industry, and also offers very tangible investment opportunities to those individuals as well.
Yeah, I think the key thing as well is, we wanted, and this is, by the way, this is another one of Mina's brainchilds. So I don't want to take any credit for this, but ultimately it's about rewarding the loyalist of members. As Godfather said, it's a minimum threshold entry to enter the exclusive club, and then you have to maintain that as well. So realistically, it's about gaining that loyalty for the community members to take the benefits of everything that Godfather said. That's kind of the mantra.
While I have you, Apex, um, let's segue into the Millionaires Club.
Yeah. So, as I said, it's just gone exclusive. The 6th of May, it was 1900 UTC. Actually, was the moment we went exclusive. And as Godfather said, to enter the club, we'll talk about the perks in a sec. But to enter the club, you had to make a minimum buy, and that's a threshold, and maybe subject to change. We have to figure that out right now. But ultimately, you purchase and hold, an equivalent MDB amount. We're paired with BNB, so you obviously it's an equivalent pair to BNB. And then once you're in, you maintain that value. If you drop below that value or you sell the amount, then you basically you're taking out the club, and there will be a kind of a waiting list period to get back into it. But ultimately, if you're in the club, there's a number of benefits, and there's actually a really cool infographic that was made again by Mina. But essentially, it's a number of things. Part of my role, we've also got Crypto Dog who's in the audience, is to kind of vet projects, and the projects are they have to have a little bit of the X factor, something a bit different, but not really looking for forks, or kind of slight manipulations of other projects. They have to have something unique about them, and obviously the Holy Trinity. You have to have a well vetted team, solid project in itself, and a really strong community. And once those tick boxes are made, then we kind of join the Discord. We read the white paper. We identify what elements kind of give it that X factor, and then at that point we kind of get the guys to hopefully pitch to the community, and kind of as a benefit for the Millionaire Club members, what we're really looking for is what benefits can they bring. So whether that's whitelists or we had our first project pitch yesterday. Actually, it was a project called the Golden Society. They were good enough to give their refineries as part of an award, which is really, really cool actually for the members, and we're going to be actually giving them out today. So it's the benefits that come off the back of these project pitches. We also do kind of like $1,000 of monthly airdrops specifically to the community. We have a private lounge which is specifically for the members of the Millionaire Club. It's called the Yacht Club. We have investor workshops, and they're cool. Obviously, it's all about education and making sure we're abreast of what we can from kind of industry professionals, and really kind of people who can kind of talk about that. We have a metaverse location coming. That's in the future, but we're kind of starting the ball rolling on what that could look like. We have kind of access to live events, and they'll be coming down the channel shortly. We have mental health sessions, as the Godfather said, and again, it's through another industry professional, which will be kind of dedicated to the members, but it'll be a monthly session where it's a kind of a live kind of view on health, how to respond to the emotional aspect of investing when it's your emotional side of your brain making a decision, rather than the kind of the non-emotional side. And of course we have the P status, which is essentially right now a bit of a flex role, but there's potentially key benefits that will link to that into the future. So really, it's about loyalty. As I say, it's giving our members a little bit of something. And the key thing you've got to think about this actually is nothing here is a sunken cost. It's not like, okay, well, now I've got to pay to get access. What you're actually doing is raising your net worth of MDB in order to and maintaining that in order to stay into the club. And obviously all the benefits I've just spoke about is relevant to the member should they remain in that club.
What percentage of people should be in the club but just haven't verified? Do you have any kind of clue about that?
Well, we launched the exclusivity on the 6th of May at 1900 UTC. So what happens then is we have a specific verification channel, as you just said, which you have to put your transaction and you have to verify, timestamped, obviously, verify your minimum purchase threshold, which then gets you the role to be within the Millionaire Club. So anything prior to that wouldn't have counted. Has to be post 1900 on the 6th of May.
Oh, I see. So this would be an additional purchase. I sort of thought of a question, but it's not super important. Sort of like, what if somebody, ha already had, say, 10 B&B worth, and they sold, 1.5 and then rebought? That
We,
would,
we
anyway.
encourage that. It helps the trust funds.
We have a
But no,
question from the audience. It says, did you guys ever think of rebranding to Billion Dollar Baby? No, I'm just, it's a
I'm sure that will be a
stupid
talk at some
joke.
point.
Um, I want to ask about the gravity. How do I say it? The gravity feature or the gravity project? This
Yeah, it's
is
the Gravity project. Yeah.
when is that something that you guys are already actively working on? We've been seeing a lot of that in this space. We saw 100 Days absorb Raven and Degen Finance absorb Outback, and more. There's been others.
Yeah, and we individuals from some of those projects talk to me about researcher roles in the Gravity project before they had the foresight to come up with the idea themselves. But that's just my little dig. And I think, look, our ambition, it's not about acquisition actually. It's about rescuing projects. And I think if you look at what 100 Days have done with Raven, I think anybody who's in our Discord has seen me be very sort of verbal about it. My view being very blunt. I think if you're taking somebody's money, you can't give them what they're paying for, then you should give them the money back. That's my view. What Gravity is it's about helping. The gravity. The word comes from, if you think of a celestial object where the atmosphere has been stripped, it's very difficult to kind of bring life back to the surface of that planet. But there's often some goodness in there, which are, the poor holders that are left at the end, often the holders that you really want as well, the most loyal, the most active. And then also, there's great people who work within those teams quite often. It's an incredibly difficult space. It's very risky. Quite often, there's just very good people that reach a point where volume dries up and they pass the point of no return. So ultimately, what Gravity does, it offers, those projects at that point. We wouldn't be in the business of acquiring sort of in a business way. I think it's very tricky, if I'm honest. I think when you acquire something, you acquire both its liabilities and its assets. And really what Gravity is about is rescuing what is a situation that is dead, basically, and it's going to be very difficult to return. We announced our first Gravity project actually 2 days before we launched, and that's Vault DeFi, who've got two projects, 7,000 holders across the two. We already started that process, so hundreds of their holders received airdrops on launch of the first tranche, and then the liquidity pools are there's two liquidity pools, both of them have separate locks, so we're going through that process. And actually, so far what we've seen, I can see a couple of people here actually that are from that community. So far the theory is held out where it's been good for the people, it's been good for MDB, and a lot of the people that then come and been active in the community have been fantastic additions to the community as well, and that's what it's all about. I think when I had my little dig, but being very open, when I saw that other projects were also doing similar things, certainly one in particular which I mentioned, my response was, well, good on them, and I hope that whoever does it with the right intentions, that is about giving rather than taking, and then I'm okay with that. If more people do more good, we make DeFi better doesn't mean that we own nobility. We want to see more people do good, and we want to see more liquidity in projects that have good intentions. So my hope is that just anybody that does it thinks about what they can give rather than just what they can get, and that's ultimately what Gravity is all about.
What
And do you know what? Our community, not a single person in our community had an issue with it at all. And yeah, credit to them, because I think in this space people talk about community and you see people turn very quickly to self-interest, and actually nobody ever said, well, why are you putting energy into this?
Yeah.
You should just focus on MDB. They said, no, actually this is what this, and I called it, we did a session to announce it, and we called it walk in the talk, and we really wanted to get that first one kicked off because there's a lot of talk in this space, and you know, a measure of a man is his actions, not what he says, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well said. Just to sort of not summarize, but so the project that you guys are working on, the first Gravity project, I don't want to call it acquisition, but maybe a merger. Um, those uh, users, those members of the other project, they will receive airdrops of MDB, and then a sort of an equivalent amount of liquidity will be added to the MDB token. Is that about correct?
Yeah, well, you know, and I think, you know, we always have to do our due diligence, because you know, helping people doesn't mean that you hurt other people as well, right? So it has to work for everybody. It has to be sort of equally good. And actually, with Volt, what we were able to do, with a bit of stretch on our side, but I think overall actually it evens out. What we were able to do was, is we're providing the equivalent value actually at market cap, not a liquidity value. You know, quite often with these projects, I think when you're, and that's why really when if a project is extremely early and it's about acquisition, for me, you know, I would, and we actually, so a project that subsequently rugged, interestingly, close to our space, tried to sell us their project pre-launch, and we said no, give your investors their money back. And they said, you know, they had health problems, and you know, they had a story behind it, but for us they were massive red flags, and we sort of raised some smoke signals, and to the right people, and we you know, told them very clearly what they should be doing with that money. Whereas, you know, actually when you look at a project near the end of its life, quite often the liquidity ratios are really strong. And but you know, so there's this paradox that you've actually got very strong liquidity ratios, but if the system is fundamentally a Ponzonomics, you know, not to point fingers, but that is what most crypto projects are, then you're still requiring someone to take risk where it's had, you know, a very clear trend line for a long period of time, and that hype has gone, so that's basically not going to happen. So I think you have this paradox where there's actually there's a number of really valuable things, as I've described, and Gravity we see as another way of being able to unlock that value that's really good for people on all sides. And actually, like, by whether we get there or not, it's been really difficult, to be honest. 9 out of 10 projects we talk to, the people running the projects are the barrier. I think, you know, there's probably a reason why a lot of them are in that place, right? And quite often we've even seen a couple of projects just let liquidity just, you know, dive off into space forever, rather than the Gravity option, because you know, my view is that sometimes it's just not in their own personal interest to do it. So which is a real shame. But you know, it would be great if in a year's time there had been 5, 6, 7 Gravity projects, and actually we had a community that had a huge amount of people that had all come from that similar sort of situation and been through some hard times, and were all together in a better place. Just emotionally, for me, that, you know, that for me would be a great achievement. But you know, we've always got an external dependency when we try and make this happen. And you know, I think as more people start to do it, if I'm brutally honest, which maybe I shouldn't always be so honest, I think we'll probably have situations where our option is philanthropic, to try and help people, and then maybe other people who see the approach, then maybe they'll offer incentives that maybe would make it mean that there's competition within that space. And you know, if that means that project ends up in a better place and holders are in a better place, then great. But let's see. I wonder if we'll have a Gravity project one day which had acquired another project, and it's
That's
just this
right.
irony. But
It's
let's
right. This is
yeah, let's see.
turning into a concentration, right? Like one project acquires another, then that project gets acquired. Like the fish are getting eaten by bigger fish. It's very, very interesting. Don't you guys love
That,
DeFi? Hey,
that
this
sounds more like a black hole.
No, no, it's just sort of like maybe call it an effect of capitalism, perhaps. I don't want to get into that discussion, but this has been one of the fastest AMAs ever. Let's grab some questions so that people don't get left out. And then also let me say, we're gonna have a raffle. Um, the MDB team has graciously offered us $100 of MDB token um, that we will give out for audience participation. So if you guys are sitting on questions, but you haven't typed them out yet, please do so now. Also, feel free to raise your hand. And with that said, Lola, do you have any questions while I look through the chat? I'm sure she'll be here in a moment. Um, this person says, how many times has the Phoenix bought to date, and how much is in the Phoenix fund now?
Yeah, so how much has the Phoenix bought to date? So the Phoenix has made purchases of around $82,000 to date across about 26 transactions. Nearly half of that was in one transaction, which was a bit of a tactical test, to be honest, to see how many people were holding on for exit liquidity. So we were very patient. We had people 6 hours in coming in saying, use the Phoenix. And we were like, what? This doesn't work if you just tip all of your money in. And so we played, if you look at our chart, you can see it, right? We played this game of chicken, and our system is meant to move money from the hands of the impatient into the patient, or actually, if everybody was patient, then everybody would make some money. But some people will operate the way they do. So it's, and then there's been lots of smaller buys which have then slowed down, actually. So you would have seen a big slowdown in the buys, because what the protocol doesn't want to do is pump for the sake of pumping, and that's written within our white paper. So it becomes much more tactical as the market cap becomes a bigger ratio of the trust fund. And our worst nightmare, you say make DeFi better, and then say it just caught on, went crazy, and your $1 billion market cap, and you've got a 5 million fund, then we know that when that crashes, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be crying, and we didn't want that. So we also design within the protocol this sort of traffic light system, which will encourage people actually to be cautious, because we're basically saying, look, the Phoenix isn't going to support at this level, which is a subtle probably way of saying, look, if you got some profits, it makes sense to take a little bit now, and be ready if there's a dip, because you want to beat the Phoenix. So in terms of the trust fund, so obviously bounced around a bit, but we were a bit cheeky, if I'm completely honest. So we kind of almost had some sunk cost in there, because we have 10% invested into high risk projects, and all three of them have been really painful, to be honest, because all three of them were rebase projects, but all three of them also have really large communities. I think Sphere definitely has a lot of long-term utility planned, and so that's why the team signed off on a much larger investment in Sphere than the others. But there's this thing that we use socioeconomics. So we basically run some formulas and mathematical models, and then work out what we believe is likely in terms of return investment from investing in communities as well as investing in protocols. So we invested $30,000 into Seifu, and actually, Brian Legend reshared our tweets. Our most liked and retweeted tweet was that tweet announcing our investment into Seifu. So I'm sure you can imagine that actually we had the person who bought a very large amount recently. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to talk about someone's own personal investments, but I believe that they came across from Seifu. So I think they exited about 100,000 from Seifu. So that wasn't our intention, by the way, but certainly in terms of an awareness piece. So we've seen some depreciation on that side. We've had a lot in stable, which has avoided a lot of loss, and the trust fund today is somewhere in the region of about, I think, just under $1.6 million, with a liquidity of less than 400,000.
Gotcha. He has a follow-up question. He says, basically, he wants to know, this is always manually done, right? The Phoenix
Correct.
comes in very strategically, and
Correct. We don't want it to be gamed.
we've had a number of Warren Buffett quotes, but it sounds like basically you guys are buying when there are blood in the streets, right? That's always the best time to buy, even if it's your own project, right? Of course.
The Phoenix is very hungry, and she wants to consume as much supply as possible because
Um,
we're a deflationary system. So, yeah, it makes, and
we
lots of smart people in the community
we
would.
have to hurry up a little bit now. I don't mind going late, and we never talk about a time, but we do have to hurry up a lot, and I'd like to get to all the. Rico Suavo says, "Are you doxxed?" And I think you guys are all doxxed except for the dev, correct?
No, no, we're not. We're KYC. I'm KYC by Obsidian Council. They're making some changes, so we've got some conversations going on with them at the moment. We're in this strange situation where they've kind of moved their rules. We've got a commitment to. I've got a commitment to docs within 6 months or at a certain market cap.
Okay.
Um, we have a couple of options on the table, so we've got meetings going on right now with various KYC organisations. So option one is that we comply with House of Obsidian and we continue with them. That's option one. Option two is that we're going to change our KYC, or option three is that actually that I accelerate the doxing process. So all three are being explored, and we should have an announcement within the next 30 hours.
Gosu, thank you for those questions, the Woods and Rico Suave. Gosu says, why BNB and not BUSD? Wouldn't that make you volatile?
It does. There is a certain level of volatility, and it's very easy when something goes down for people to say, "I told you so." But there's lots of experts looking back at charts, right? And I'll be honest, my view was that we were coming in under 400 as a start. If we were coming in at 650 BNB, then I think it'd be a no-brainer to peg to a stable. I think we knew that we were in sort of like this choppy space of a market, but our view is that longer term there'll be some there'll be some wind in our backs, and then we have the opportunity then to peg to a stable at a point when there's been some appreciation rather than missing out on what we think is going to be some appreciation coming.
I see. So essentially, you are hoping to get that wind at your back, and there's risk involved, but also reward, right? I mean, this is a pro crypto move, right?
Exactly, and also you got to remember. So if we were like your typical token that's raised, say $1 million, and all that $1 million is in your liquidity pool, and you pair it to BNB, then that whole $1 million is at the mercy of BNB. Now we have a very small part of the overall protocol that is paired purely to BNB. So actually, we're already hedged in that way because our funds are kind of split into a big pot and a little pot, and the little pot is the liquidity, which is purely at the mercy of BNB price.
Here's a very prescient question. It says, "You have a great voice. Would you sing a couple of bars of Killing Me Softly?"
I think I'd be, yeah. I think you don't want that.
I don't want to twist your arm, but maybe just a couple bars. Okay, okay.
Honestly,
He
it'd be
says,
it'd be terrible.
here's another question. What's the benefit of having a metaverse for you guys?
That's a good question, and I think it's on the sort of roadmap to explore is making the Millionaires Club a metaverse location. But we've got so much that we haven't talked about. We've got our algorithmic stable coin that grows on its own, well, it's part on its own. We've got that launching. We've got staking. We've got bonds. The Millionaires Club.
I
Having the
not
metaverse
to
location is
not to shill any other projects or anything, but and I forget the name of it, but I found a project that has a sort of a 16-bit graphical style, and it's working right now. I mean, you can log onto their site, connect your wallet, you have your unique ID, and you can meet team members in this virtual space. Now, there's really no functionality, but just as an example of a working, I'll have to find it for you guys. I mean, I know it's not the direction, but I like metaverses. That's the point I'm trying to make. I think they're cool, and I think they are the future. I mean, Discord is sort of like a metaverse in a way. He has a follow-up. He says, is it just a buzzword? And he knows the answer to that. Metaverse is a buzzword, whether you have the best metaverse in the world or the worst. A buzzword, we don't control what buzzwords are, you know? I mean, passive income is real. If you put enough money into dividend stocks, that's passive income. But is it a buzzword? Of course, you know. Don't you agree with what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
Let's see. Yeah, where do you see MDB in 5 years?
We have, so there's another part of our roadmap which we haven't released details on yet, which is we call it MDB Infinity, and ultimately that once we get through this phase, then we move into the Infinity model, which will provide longevity to the protocol and provide passive income opportunities to many thousands of people for many years to come. And we want to become more decentralized as it matures, and that's the goal. And we will be the custodians of that. And in 5 years, we're not short term people, and in 5 years, fully expect to still be leading the project and expect it to be as sustainable as it is today.
Um, can the Phoenix do buybacks during a run-up if the Phoenix is technically unlocked? This is in the white paper. There is a ratio where the Phoenix will not do buybacks because it's it basically doesn't make
It's
sense.
irresponsible.
Yeah, is that a good enough answer? Um,
It's
yeah.
irresponsible. Yeah.
Let me go ahead and mark that person for the raffle. Um, Here's a question for Mina. Have you already decided on which chain the NFTs will be?
No, no. So, as part of Millionaires Club, I don't know if we've covered it or not, but one of the things we are looking to do is launch some exclusive NFTs. I am currently working with some sort of artists on that. We're in quite early concept stages. So, no, what chain it will be on, we haven't decided. That's a conversation for probably in a couple of weeks' time once we're a bit further into the process. But yeah, I'm open to suggestions, to be honest. I'll be honest, I'm not big on NFTs. I don't know loads about them. I don't own loads of NFTs. So if any of the community who are into NFTs have suggestions on what chains they think work best and stuff, I'm always open to hearing it. So if anyone has an idea and don't want it to be on Ethereum, then just shout and let me know what you think and why, essentially.
Yeah, it's a big decision. I mean, for DreamFi, we are looking at doing our NFT on AVAX. Um, this might not have been the most wise decision, it turns out, because AVAX NFTs want everything to be contract side and not marketplace side, which sounds great in theory, but we are having some issues with it. And it turns out, had we gone Polygon or Ethereum, we would, we believe we would not be having the issues. However, they're all good. With the right contracts and the right development, they can all work and fulfill every function that you need to. I have one more question about um, the project. Sorry, guys, I'm drawing a blank here. About the Gravity project. Just to clarify, so if a project is waning, if it's in the autumn of its life, and you guys decide to come in and salvage it, just to be absolutely clear, the the people in the old project will become MDB holders, and they will no longer be XYZ holders. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Lola, if you're ready, you can chime in anytime with your questions, or you can read some audience questions.
Sure. Actually, I was just looking at one. KN636 asked, in a later stage of the project, after MBD Infinity, and when there will be middle to low supply left of MDB, will the team think to add other things to the ecosystem, like a DEX, if we have enough liquidity with farms, pools, and launchpad? Collect fees could be used for the trust fund.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I suppose one thing we don't want to do, and we see many projects doing, is they kind of there's almost like it's the same white paper rolled out by everybody, right? That we're going to get listed on Binance, we're going to have our own DEX, and what we wanted to do is have a really actionable roadmap that's focused on what we're trying to achieve, and then our plan is then to to build on that roadmap, but not tie us into something because it's what everybody expects to see, because that's what everybody says, if that makes sense. But I think, yeah, a DEX potentially could make sense. I think at the same time, I think it's really important that we play to our strengths, and we look for innovation rather than imitation, and that's one of the things that we really want to do.
And the second question they had was, Tomb forks are very popular. Would you consider doing one at same point where we would have a token pegged to BUSD and adding it to the MBD ecosystem? I think it will attract a lot of investors once MBD have a nice MC and people feel it's safe being pegged to BUSD. Collected fees could be used for the trust fund.
Yeah, I think they're all things to consider. I think tomb forks are by nature very risky, and yeah, I think there's what we we want to. I always say this in any sort of AMA, so apologies to the people who've heard it a million times. I couldn't do this and then go to bed at night knowing that I could wake up and it's down 99%, and that isn't possible in our protocol without some huge existential sort of thing that would just be affecting the whole industry anyway. So I think whatever we do has to, of course we want to feed the trust fund, and of course we want more liquidity, and of course we want more holders, but at the same time we don't want to we don't want to cause people pain on that journey as well, so we have to carefully consider what we do.
Right. Thank you for that. Lade asked, how are we going to educate the holders in managing greed?
Question.
Yeah. So sorry, how are we going to educate the holders on?
In managing greed.
Okay, yeah, I thought you said that. Yeah, it's a really good question, and we're working on some marketing content that helps people to do that. I think there is the good thing about our system is that it should, as long as we're responsible with the trust fund and the mathematics work, even though you could experience a really big crash, it should have higher lows and higher highs. So I think there's an opportunity for probably people to go through a lesson learned without facing the abyss. I think time in the protocol will help people through that process, and at the same time we're also developing. That's why we wanted to develop this stable token, actually, because that gives us this ecosystem where people can kind of play in MDB and speculate in something that's appreciating fund, appreciating supply, but then they can move to this safe haven as well, so that people become quite good at knowing when to sensibly take profits and when to invest into the protocol again.
Great, thank you. Another one. The meme plug said, if the NFTs are on a BNB chain, will you be able to buy them with MDB?
We haven't got that far into it yet.
Yeah, we are so early concept with the NFTs. We can't really answer much about them, to be honest. I mean, like, we are literally the very, very beginning. But we'll keep the community updated on the progress. And like I said, if anyone's got a preference, like if you think they should be on BNB and you want to use MDB, then put that in our suggestions tab in our server, and we'll always take those on board. But yeah, it's really too early to things like that about the NFTs at the moment.
And then he had a follow-up question. Will we get taxed if we moved MBD into MBD stable?
Yes.
Okay. JFib said, do you have an idea in mind of how many Gravity projects you're planning on merging with? Or will the Vault merger success determine whether that will continue?
I think there's many opportunities, and we're already seeing many opportunities. What we're learning is that it's we've had one instance. there's been several projects that have hit trouble recently where the owners of the projects are very aware of what they could do, haven't offered it as an option to their community. Their community have been asking for it, and they've still just kind of dug their heels in because it's not, maybe because I don't know, right? I don't want to speculate, and it's a very difficult time probably for those individuals who have been through some long hard months. So I think we have to be sort of you know, optimistic in hoping that we'll find more that we can help, but at the same time, you know, it's not an, you know, our ambition is to help people. It's not about our egos. So, you know, if we keep coming up against that block, then we'll keep trying because we're committed to helping people. But, you know, quite frankly, we need leaders of projects to work with us to make it possible.
Mad Hatter said, "Will we reduce the exclusivity to 200 members in the Yacht Club?"
No.
Okay. Wish asked, any plans to diversify into just traditional finance or products/services outside of DeFi?
And you know what, it's an interesting point actually, and one of the challenges that I see is that it's difficult to bring mainstream capital into DeFi because of the reputation of crypto, I'll be honest, and the lack of regulation. But despite the fact that it offers fantastic investment opportunities that are relatively safe, there's many of them. So I think going from mainstream finance and bringing that capital into crypto is very difficult, but I think if we build something that's really good, then there may be an opportunity where we can move the other way. So that is something that's in our minds.
Awesome. Got any plans to build easier on-ramp options?
Yeah. I think one of the things that we need to do is just think about how do we provide an ecosystem for people that is sustainable and also meets their needs that sit around it. So yeah, I think having a sort of an on-ramping solution is possible. I think at the same time, any great business outsources to experts within particular fields to succeed. So we'll always, even our MDB Plus is powered by XUSD with a twist, albeit on top of it, because we want it to be slightly different. But we want to build this ecosystem that's community focused. Not yeah. So short answer is yes, but we'd probably outsource that.
That makes sense. Is there anybody that wants to join the stage? Just go ahead and raise your hand. And if we missed a question, go ahead and just re-ask it. We certainly aren't skipping any questions. As far as I know, this is a real Ask Me Anything. And if we did miss your question, I apologize. And if you repost it, I will ask it.
Yeah, ask a difficult question. I always think that we're going to get some really tough ones, and people are really polite. I don't mind if people want to ask a difficult question.
What is the biggest challenge that you can foresee for MDB in the very short term?
That's a really good question. So the biggest challenge for us in the short term, I think so if you look at the way we design the protocol, I think the biggest risk of any project is having your success, only so much of your success is in your own hands. And so we designed the protocol and the project, and it would have been very difficult, if I'm honest, to get the core team on board that we have if we hadn't gone this way, because we didn't want it to be a gamble. We wanted it to be like a business decision that's well thought through. It obviously has some risks, but there's some calculated risks. And so I think one of our biggest strengths, which I know doesn't answer your question, is that we've designed something where our success is largely in our own hands, and we don't. If we get to 1 billion, we'll get to 1 billion market cap because people want to be in the protocol and we've got the right intentions. We don't want to be at 1 billion for the sake of being at 1 billion. So I think probably one of our challenges in the short term, we saw this in the first couple of days after launch, especially with lots of investors who obviously hadn't really researched the protocol and maybe had different expectations. One of the challenges is dealing with sort of community anxiety, frustration, and impatience. Now, we will be here in 12 months, and most projects that deliver crazy growth in a really short amount of time are not. And, the universe is a balance of different things. So, I think part of building these community sections also allows you to have sort of environments where you people that really understand what they're in help each other. I think one of the challenges that, from a team perspective, actually, I'd say that we certainly saw is you imagine people in the team that haven't been paid, have been working flat out, work from like 6 a.m. until the second they close their eyes, making huge sacrifices, and they're doing it because they really want to help people. And then people come into the chat and call you a scam, and that's that I think that's a process. So I think dealing with that side of things, but I think as every day goes on and we're walking the talk rather than just selling an idea, that becomes less and less of a problem.
Do you have any merchandise planned? The people want merch, man. They want t-shirts, mugs, hats, air fresheners.
We've got nothing, but this is something the community been up for since actually, isn't it, Godfather? We've seen it a lot.
I'm down for the merch, but it's work for Mina, right? But hey, I didn't say that, but yeah, I'm down
for me, right, it's a logistical issue, right, because it's global, and I've actually worked a little bit in importing and having clothes made, for example, before. And yeah, I think the logistics of managing that globally would be quite difficult. So I'd need to find a really good outsourcer if that was to become a reality.
I have an idea on that. I'll drop you a DM.
Yeah, do. I can just make it a Millionaires Club job, Apex, and then you can do it.
Thanks, mate.
JJ asked, may have missed if asked earlier, will there be a tax on moving, not cold storage, for those planning to hold?
I think he's saying basically if he wants to move his tokens to cold storage, will there be a way for him to avoid taxes?
Yeah, there's no transfer tax.
Okay, excellent. More of a philosophical question. Do you think that projects should have docs teams as a default in the DeFi space?
If you don't mind me jumping in on this one. For me, so when we first started this project, I didn't really have an opinion either way on doxing, and it's something I would always consider. But so if you could see as a project owner or a staff member or anyone in the team, even like the helpful community members, right? They're not even technically on the team. Some of the messages and the threats that we receive, I think that would become really difficult, if I'm honest. Like I've got small children. Everyone in the community knows that I'm always laughing about how I can't actually usually make AMAs and stuff because my kids are just feral. And I think it becomes a real safety issue if you're not careful. Like we've received threats because whitelist was full, for example, and I think it's really difficult to balance that in the interest of the community. I can understand why they want a docs team, and then in the interest of the team, we are humans and people just like everyone else, right? And yeah, for me, it's a safety thing more than anything. That's not to rule it out. Like we said, the Godfather is actually committed to docs at some point, even possibly quicker, depending on what we decide to do with the KYC. But yeah, I think you've got to be careful with it, really.
Here's a good question that I actually am wondering as well. KN636 says, do you plan to meet the investors or the members of Millionaires Club for a party or a meeting once we reach certain MC?
I like you. I don't know what everybody else thinks. I think I love a party.
An idea. Maybe if when we maybe hit some sort of threshold, whether that would be geographically savvy. You've got to think about locations and representation. Obviously, we're primarily based in the UK, but it's something to think about. It's something to maybe think about in the future. nothing's off the table, I guess, right now. We're only, we're not that long into the project, so ideas like that are, very much being explored. And when we have something to announce, we'll certainly do so.
Gosu,
Right.
he didn't really phrase it like a question, but he wonders how the Gravity project. It sounds like he's asking who will it benefit and how will it scale. I don't want to put words in the man's mouth, but I see he is getting at a point. But all he's really saying is that personally, he doesn't think it'll scale. Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, and I think I don't. Maybe it doesn't scale, but we're not doing it out of ambition. We're doing it out of compassion. So that's not really going to make me lose any sleep. The I think the idea of it is that there are opportunities that, and Volt has demonstrated that. I think one thing that's easily missed, and Mina gets this a lot, is like the when marketing, and people want you to spend money on marketing that is, quite frankly, it's a very blunt tool. And the reason we're doing so many AMAs is because we want educated investors who understand our protocol, and they'll benefit long term. And that's so. I think back to there's also a huge marketing benefit from Gravity, which is very very difficult to measure. But if quite often the holders within a project at the very end hold relatively small amounts as well. So they're all. How much does it cost you? I don't know, Mina. If we look at a big Dex Tools banner, number of click throughs, number of actual buys, it starts to get pretty expensive for every new holder, doesn't it?
Yeah, the click through, the pay-per-click price on ads is huge, and likewise actually with YouTube influencers, which is why our marketing's been more organic. Like, we do have the ads, we do have the influencers, but if we can, divert that cost into something that gives us a better return for our money, then absolutely that's something we would always do.
I think for me as well, I'm a massive believer in build it and they shall come. You have to look at the project. You have to look at the initial kind of concept of we launched. We kind of got rid of the early dumpers, and the way the mechanics of the project works and everything, and you can kind of see the charts. And let's be completely frank, we're in a absolute bloodbath of a market. Yet we're not just kind of maintaining, we're actually growing as well. So you've got to look at what that does, and we've just been on CoinMarketCap. I think soon we'll be going on CoinGecko, and those kind of things. That, as Mina said, it's organic. It's you don't really want to go down the pay-per-click kind of view, because there's just something about that doesn't feel organic enough to me. And I think, yeah, build it and they shall come is a much more representative way of marketing than kind of the pay-per-click kind of scenario.
We
But
have
just to answer,
some drama erupting in the main stage over this question about
Yeah.
should we dox as founders? I mean, I'm going through the same question with my co-founders in the project DreamFi that we're launching. As do we want to dox? And the answer is yes, we do want to dox. But like somebody else said, this is the internet. I have been on the internet for 30 years. And I have learned that you should not dox. Now, it's different when you start handling other people's money. It's absolutely different. So that is a point that we can't ignore. But the other day, somebody asked me what my real name was, and I said, I'll tell you over voice chat. But just typing it and just putting it out there in the internet, 30 years of being on the internet has told me that it is a negative expected value. But it's different when you're the founder of a project. Um, so there's a lot of considerations. Right, guys?
I think it's a balance, right? You've got and that's why I think actually a KYC with a really, really good company, who have got a decent legal team in place, who have got a really good rep, that's really important. And I think actually, arguably, that's more valuable than just doxing, right? Because like you say, what am I going to do? Dox, give my name, give a picture, give my address, give my work history. Like, that's I'm not going to give people my address and such, right? Even if I was to dox, whereas a KYC company would have everything on file. Yeah, I think just chatting to one of the members in the chat, and they're saying, they're not worried because they would basically tackle anyone head on that threatened them or their family, and that's all well and good if you're able to do that. I'm not. I don't have much violence or strength in me if someone turned up at my door because they got annoyed because there was a dip or anything.
You're allowed to have crossbows where you live, correct?
I don't know. Are we? Is that a UK
I'm
thing?
I'm half joking. I mean, what is the docs exactly? I mean, is it just showing your face and saying what country you live in? Because even, I mean, does Tim Cook uh, put his address on his business card? Of course not. My plumber doesn't put his home address on his business card, but he's still, I know who he is. I
Do,
I
do,
think it's just full
do,
of crazy people, though, isn't it? The internet, and I think that's the biggest concern for me. I'd happily put a picture of like myself up. Obviously, my avatar is not actually me. And give people my first
Right.
name.
The same thing with my avatar is not actually me because for me, I only like for like I'm comfortable with NCaraway like knowing who I am because I've had like on-one conversations with him, so I'm more comfortable showing somebody that I've been talking to for a while as opposed to just some random person that just entered the group. You see what I'm saying?
I
Yeah.
think I think the other thing as well that not a lot of people kind of bring up is within DeFi there's very little regulation, and who knows, if you're a doxed owner of a project, not to say it's a nefarious or ill intent in any way, but what happens if regulation comes out, whether it's the SEC or something comes out that all of a sudden lands the owner in jail because of something that's a new regulation, and I don't know how comfortable I'd feel because no one knows what the future of DeFi is going to bring as well. You just don't know. That's a risk as well, I think, to consider. Not just the individual getting to know who someone is. It's the regulation side as well.
That's a good point. There's a lot of unknowns, and there are also unknown unknowns, right?
Right. I mean, when I used to be on a lot of like just voice chat groups when I was like a teenager or whatever, and just there's just a lot of uh, you just never know somebody's full intentions, you know?
I know, like, somebody was offering to do a docs for me, and but they wanted a picture of my face and my feet. I'm just kidding. Are there any more questions? Does anybody have their hand up? I would love to stay in chat. I have to be out the door in 30 minutes, so I've got 25 minutes, but I also want to be respectful of the Million Dollar Baby team's time. Um, so let us get any more real questions. If one day there is like 10,000 token left, will the TF be still in place at this point to do buybacks and rise the price by itself? So the last holder guy can sit here for 30 years and wait till the TF, I think that means the Phoenix, make him a billionaire possibly. That is a technical question that gets into tokenomics. I don't think that there will be a moment when there's only 10,000 tokens left because as people sell, the tokens go back into the liquidity pool. Is that the correct answer, guys?
Yeah, but there's a constant burn. So when the Phoenix buys, the Phoenix then burns most of what she buys actually. So there is a depreciating supply.
There is yes, there is a this burn aspect, but the
It's probably very unlikely that you'd get down to those levels.
yeah. What is your token supply? Do you know off the top of your head a rough
Yeah, so
reference?
starting was 1 billion, but we've already burned 24.5 million.
Okay. Blue Flame says, how much has the trust fund grown since launch? And do you have any rough calculations as to how big you would expect it to grow over the next year?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's actually down since launch, but it's not as I mentioned, sort of in answer to the previous question regarding the trust fund, it's not down as much as the market because we hedged it with some much safer investments. In terms of a projection longer term, it's really difficult because there's so many factors there. It really depends on volume, how the trust fund is deployed, what the market looks like. Yeah, all of those things impact each other. But we know that if we were to consistently do over $100,000 a day in volume, then we would be in a situation where the trust fund would be over, assuming that the market was at least static from where it is today, then the trust fund would be in excess of $5 million within a year from 100k volume. Obviously, if you did 200, 500 million, then it starts to get really silly numbers.
Wow. Lola, did you have any last questions for our guys?
Nope, I think I've pretty much asked what I could. Actually, I did have one more. I'm not sure if you said it in the beginning, but like, what's your background like prior to this project? Like, have you been a part of like any other major projects or like, just yeah? What's your background prior to this?
Yeah, so our technical team have written hundreds of contracts. Actually, we specifically wanted to work with an experienced technical team who have their own projects and skin in the game. Actually, and but from my perspective, I've got many years' experience. First, across both startup and also corporate environments. I've worked, as I mentioned previously, for a couple of Fortune 500 businesses in senior roles, and then in the last few years I've spent time working in technology startups, scaling relatively small organizations up to sort of investment rounds.
If you guys don't mind, I'm going to pitch Fear versus Greed, and then I'm going to do the random number generator to determine the winners of the lottery. Does that sound good, guys? So
Absolutely.
get your questions. This is literally the last call for questions. So Fear versus Greed. I ask one AVAX a month, and I prorate that. So if you were to purchase today, I guess it would be about 2/3 of an AVAX, and that would last you until the end of the month. We're tracking over 600, almost nearly 700 projects, and basically what I promise are launch dates and times. Launch dates and times. We have a beautiful community full of talented and smart people and active chat. Apologize for my dog. She's looking at my wife and barking. What goes through a dog's head? Is there anything that you can say about Fear versus Greed, Lola? I'm going to run this random number generator right now. Oh, here we go. What are your thoughts on the KYC Obsidian offer compared to places like Assured?
Well, we're going through some levels of due diligence at the moment, so I think it'd be unprofessional to say because we went through KYC with Obsidian, and now we're exploring other options and then going deeper into what the options look like with House of Obsidian. So yeah, I think it'd be, whilst we're sort of having those discussions with those organisations, it'd probably be unprofessional for me to sort of do some assessment of their credentials.
No, that's fair enough. Okay, thank you for that question, We Crypto. Winner number 1 is Blue Flame. Winner number 2 is LeVar Burton. And you guys are each going to get $50 of MDB.
Nice.
I don't want to waste too much time in our AMA, but how do you guys want to handle that? Can I just tell them to go to your Discord and open a ticket? Is that how it? Or what
Get
do you
them
guys want to do?
to DM me. It's probably easier. Tickets get lost because we've got so many. So yeah, just DM me, and I will sort you out.
Okay, I hope that Blue Flame heard that. I hope that I know wish I was LeVar Burton did hear that. Go ahead and DM Mina, and she'll get you guys sorted out. And do you guys want to give us any closing statements, Godfather, Mina, Apex?
Nothing from me.
And I apologize to rush you guys, but it went really fast, didn't it? I mean, the first 45 minutes went really fast.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. Look, I just want to thank everybody. Always, people give up their time to listen to us talk and come and ask questions. So I really appreciate it. And if you haven't heard of MDB, a measure of anyone is their actions rather than their words. So come and see the community, come and check us out, read the white paper, look at what we're executing and how we're moving through it. And if you buy, remember to take profits, be responsible, and make sure you've got a little bit there to buy the dip, and everybody's going to have a good time.
Excellent. Mina, do you want to say a few words?
No, yeah, just thanks everyone for listening. I would also say maybe people in the chat want to calm down a little bit. Yeah, they've gone a bit crazy. Anyway, yeah, no, thanks for listening and joining us. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And I just
Go
wanted
ahead, Lola.
to say, sorry, I just wanted to say, thank you guys for hosting this AMA. I really hope to see MBD have a great future, and I just hope to see a good outcome for you all.
What a nice thing to say. Yeah, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Godfather, Mina, and Apex. Thank you, Lola, for coming on here and helping out. Thank you for all the audience members, everybody who asked questions, everybody who helped promote this, and everybody who was interested. This is what makes DeFi great. It's right here. It's the fact that we can all come together in a little Discord and talk directly to the founders, the people that are making everything happen, and ask them anything. You try asking even a small company to get an interview with the CEO. It ain't gonna happen.
No, very good. Thank you. Sorry, I was just looking at the chat, and yeah, it's got certainly got a bit lively.
I love it, man. Energy is what we need these days. After these last few days in the markets, we might need to see some. I mean, the markets are violent. Let's talk violence. No, I'm just kidding.
Very good.
Thank you
Great
so
stuff.
much, everybody. Is there anything I'm missing, Lola? Anything I'm forgetting, Apex?
No, not for me. Just feel free to come and say hello on the Discord. We're all friendly people. We've always got time, and yeah, don't be a stranger.
Yeah, and I mean, if you aren't a part of Fear versus Greed, you should definitely join because, I mean, N works his tail off to present projects, host AMAs. He works his tail off to create a spreadsheet of projects that he's going to host AMAs with and just launches that are happening every day. And he also has another one called DreamFi. So I would definitely, if you aren't in any of them yet, I would definitely join them.
Yeah,
They are 100.
Thank you for that, Lola. Yeah, we're working hard to bring whitelists and all kinds of unique opportunities to my members. I mean, the core of what I'm selling is this really impressive, if I can say so myself, spreadsheet with all of these launch dates and times. And I also do anyway. I don't want to spend too much time pitching myself, even though people tell me I should. They. Thank you, everybody,
No,
for being here.
your spreadsheet definitely is impressive. It really is.
Thank you.
You're-
Okay, I'm going to post this on YouTube. I'll get the link out to my community, and I'll have it to you guys very soon.
Awesome. Thank you for allowing me to be up on stage and have the AMA with you guys. Great questions, great community, and I really hope to see everybody, join Fear versus Greed and be in DreamFi as well.
Very good. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone.
Hey guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye, everybody.